video thought journal, May 13th, 2024. I'm here in Toronto. It's Tara. I think the last time I sent a journal, I spoke about someone who I'd met who is monogamous and in a committed relationship with someone, and how I was having a bit of a hard time because we really liked each other and it kind of sucked. And so that still sort of hasn't been resolved. However, I've pulled back and they've pulled back, and I think that's probably the best thing for everybody. Although, I do think about them, but distance does make things easier. So that's good. But some things have changed in the last little while, and I don't recall if I mentioned this last time, but Andre approached me because he wanted to change the nature of our relationship. In particular, he was looking at wanting to de-escalate things. Although it was interesting because when I suggested that's what he was doing, was wanting to de-escalate it, he said he didn't like that term, even though we had talked about it before, and we even did a podcast on it. Actually, we just did one around this because it's interesting thinking about it. Back then was over a year ago, and actually it was less than a year ago because it was July. We just talked about, how you might de-escalate and what would it be like and that sort of thing. And I think, if I'm being honest with myself, I think this was a bit not surprising that this might happen. And it's interesting because you read lots of things about de-escalation, and a lot of times people who are polyamorous don't want to share that they're changing the nature of their relationship, because then people might say like, oh yeah, polyamorous relationships don't work, non-monogamy doesn't work, everyone just wants to be monogamous. And I don't think that's the case. I think we've made a decision, he made a decision, and I'm actually on board with it in terms of just changing the nature of our relationship, changing how we relate to each other. And that doesn't have to mean anything. It doesn't have to mean that we love each other less and I don't love him less and he doesn't love me less, but wanting to do things a bit differently, in particular around cohabitating. And, even if we go back to that other podcast from July last year, we also talked about not wanting to live together, and we ended up in the situation where we were together more, and that's by virtue of us being in two different cities. And so when we're together for extended period of time, nesting together, and then we're apart. And so it's kind of a weird dynamic. And so I actually came back to Toronto this weekend and brought back with me basically all my clothes. I left just a couple things there, but took everything of mine from there. And so that's really his place, and this is really my place. He has a couple things here too, but the idea being that, we have our own places, we are still together, but we have our own places. And when we go to the other places, we bring things we need and then we leave. And it's interesting. And I actually don't mind it, although I'm going to have to go through a bunch of my stuff because I have more than I need now. But I never did want to nest with somebody. I wanted to be on my own, and I enjoy being on my own. And I was feeling like I was bouncing around quite a bit at the beginning of the year. And so I made a specific decision to spend more time in Toronto. And so I think it's great. And I was a bit upset at first, and maybe I actually did talk about this and send something because it felt like almost like a breakup, and I was all like, I'm just going to take all my stuff and come today and pick it all up and come back and take my car. But I didn't do that, and we talked about it more. And I think it's a good thing. And I'm kind of excited to see what will happen. And it doesn't mean it's forever, but, I'm feeling good about it. So here I am back in my space in Toronto, but we have travel planned. We have lots of plans. We're excited about things. And so I think it'll be an interesting transition to sort of see what happens. I know for Andre, he wanted to feel excited to see me again. He didn't want us to interact some of the ways we had been interacting, which weren't always the best. But I mean, on the scale of it, I think we were still doing quite well. But I think there was definitely times where we were irritating each other, and it could have been because of proximity or whatever. And so, so it's going to be interesting. So that's my video thought journal. Thanks for listening.